All right, good evening. Dr. Stacy here. Welcome, welcome. So excited you are joining me this evening, or maybe you're catching the replay. I'm excited to start our part 3 in our longevity hack series and share with you that hack tonight and how that incorporates into your life, into your lifestyle, your healthy lifestyle, and into our patches. So, just before we get started, I am not a medical doctor. I have a PhD in integrative medicine and a PhD in functional medicine. So, if you have any questions in regards to your health, your medications, if you're pregnant, nursing a child, please check with your healthcare practitioner. They'll be able to guide you on your journey. And of course, this information is not intended to make any claims to prevent, treat, cure, or diagnose anything. And with that, you are smart. I'm sure you are. So you're taking health into your hands and you're going to take some really great notes on some suggestions and tips on how you can improve your quality of life or keep that quality of life as best as it possibly is. So I am going to screen share again and be able to share get rid of my little video panel here and be able to share my PowerPoint with you. All right, so like I said, we're going to talk about longevity hack number 3, which is exercise and movement. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I have been moving since I was born, as you have, but actually exercising and moving since I was 4 years old. So for me, I grew up on a ball field. We had a ball field in our backyard, and literally my mom and dad were obsessed with myself and my brother being the best at every single position. So not only did we play literally every day when we got home from school until the evening, being the best at all the positions, we also were on teams and we played with our local teams and we on travel teams. So exercise, movement always happened. Got out of high school. I'm sure many of you did some type of sport or something when you were a child. Got out of high school and stayed active. I joined an adult team. I joined a sand volleyball adult team. Started running 3 miles a day. It's what I'd always done, right? Just kept that going and stayed very active up until I was pregnant. And I knew I had to stay active during that, of course, and then decided I'm joining a gym. I'm getting a trainer. That's my mommy gift, is to be back in the gym and be, working out and taking care of my body so I can take care of my kid and my kids. So, exercise has always been a part of my life. It's always been something I've done, something I've enjoyed, different types. I love yoga, as you see here, with their doing their poses outside. I did yoga last night. I love it. It's all about connecting the breath to the body and the movements and going in and being at peace inside. As you're trying to hold those poses, sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. Last night was a mix of both. But I love to walk and I love to work out. I love to lift weights. And so I've done all kinds of classes, you name it. I've had every piece of equipment and all the stuff and joined all the different things in between. So if that's not you, it's never too late. You're going to get some good tips tonight and suggestions and honestly reasons why. This is a huge longevity hack if you want to live a long, healthy life. So let's dive right into it. Okay, so when we look at movement, it is key when we look at metabolic and cellular health. So, why it matters? Because it's actually medicine. Moving your body is medicine. Sedentary is not. It influences mitochondrial health. We've talked about mitochondria a lot. These are the powerhouse energy parts, they're little organelles on each of our trillions of cells. And so the mitochondria is important that we have this movement in order for it to function correctly. Hormone balance, insulin resistance, immune resilience. We're going to talk about insulin resistance in a minute, and brain function. So, sedentary behaviors are going to shorten your telomeres and accelerate aging. What are telomeres? They're the little end caps on the ends of your chromosomes. So you guys remember number 2 lead pencils? Remember those little erasers? When they got down to the end, you were metal to paper. If your telomeres are gone, you're dead. Woo! So, sedentary behavior is going to shrink those telomeres. We want to lengthen those telomeres, keep them protected. Carnosine protects them. That is a fun fact. But we want to keep those telomeres healthy and long because otherwise we're going to increase that aging. Exercise is obviously the most predictable predictor, unreliable predictor of health span across every age group. And we're going to talk about different age groups here in a second. But if you're not moving, you automatically are decreasing your health span. And I don't mean moving just about moving about your house. I mean some type of focused movement for your health. So here's a little bit on the science of it. It increases blood flow and detox. We know that when we signal and stimulate that lymphatic system, that drainage system, that's how we're going to get toxins out. That's how we're going to increase our oxygenation and blood flow. The only way to turn over your lymphatic system is movement. You don't move, it doesn't happen when you're sitting. So you've got to move it to get the blood flowing, to get the oxygen flowing, to get the detox pathways opened up, to get those toxins out of your body. When we look at mitokines, it's kind of, you think cytokines, different. These are messenger proteins, and so they're going to help improve brain and metabolic health. So when we're looking at metabolic health, which we've talked a lot about here in the last 2 weeks, and we're going to continue to talk about it, these are certain very, very important components when we look at these messenger proteins and what they do for your metabolic health, and movement is going to signal those. And then, of course, brain health, the neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity means your brain's ability to change and to be able to adapt. And so when we look at mood regulation, looking at the BDNF and the endorphins, movement is going to support that. So here are your different age groups. So they obviously change. I talked first of all when I was little, right? Started playing that t-ball, baseball, soccer around age 4. And so these are the reasons why we do that as kids, right? Why we're playing, because we're growing. Well, when you get into teenage years, you're still growing, but it's important for hormone balance. Can you picture maybe a child, you have 2 children, and one of the children are sedentary. They play video games all day long. They don't like to go outside, right? They're just hanging out in their room by themselves, or they're not involved in any kind of, groups or activities. Think about their posture. Think about their self-image. Think about their hormones in that teen years. And then picture, on the other hand, a teenager that's active. They're into sports, they're into stretching or resistance training, they're into activities outside of their house, outside of their school. What's their hormone balance like? What's their posture and their self-image like? And then as we get older, of course, building that strength, endurance, and flexibility, you can see how things change to just maybe 3 to 5 days of resistance, cardio, and mobility. But then when we get into our 40s and 50s, it's all about saving the muscles, stress modulation. And so strength training, doing some type of weight training, weight bearing, 2 to 3 days a week. And we're going to talk about zone 2 cardio here in just a second, or even possibly something like yoga, which is not always that easy, as I mentioned. But looking at, how do I help to build lean muscle mass? How do I help to increase and keep my bone density? And that's where we go into our 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s when we look at that health of our joints and our balance and our stability and our body in motion. So you can see walking, Pilates, a little lighter weights in your 60s and 70s, maybe some aquatic exercise depending on your joint health, depends on how long you've been patching, right? And then 80s and beyond is for that function and connection. So probably a little bit less, but I don't know. I've seen some 80-year-olds kicking it, that's for sure. So again, I told you we're going to talk a little bit about that metabolic health. So insulin sensitivity, insulin resistance is a huge buzzword right now, and it should be, because most people are dealing with this and they don't even realize it or how to correct it. And if you missed 1 and 2 on sleep and on nutrition, you can go back to my YouTube channel and grab those. They're going to talk to you a lot more in depth about insulin sensitivity. But movement will help you with that issue of insulin resistance that people deal with, and so be able to help make your insulin levels more sensitive, so that we lower these post-meal glucose spikes. So Brenda and I, every night after dinner, I literally will book out 30 minutes after we eat dinner. So I try in my calendar to time when I try to have a place in there for dinner every night, and I try to book out 30 minutes after so we can go for a walk. It's usually only about a 20-minute walk, but we'll do a walk because that automatically is going to lower the glucose spike after you eat, even though we're not eating high glucose types of meals for sure. Tonight it was twice baked homemade potatoes and filet mignon. So definitely no insulin spikes on that. Then we look at muscle preservation. So resistance training preserves your muscle, which is that metabolic currency. So again, looking at the weights, looking at the machines, looking at the body weight exercises you can do to help to be able to preserve your muscle. And then when we look at sarcopenia, this is where we start to see the wasting of the muscles. And that is actually a huge indicator of insulin resistance and frailty. And so your body is going to become less and less able to hold itself together if you are not exercising. And so this is a really important factor as you're aging. So we're going to talk a little bit about protein. As I did last week, I find every single time I talk to someone, they're not consuming enough protein. And we talked about this last week. But when you look at protein, when you're little, you can see you obviously need it for your growth and your repair, your tissue building, and your immune function. But when you get into your adult years, past that youth age, looking at keeping the muscle and keeping your metabolism up, that is what is going to prevent the fat gain and the blood sugar swings. It's the protein. And I'll ask people every day, how much do you consume protein a day? Oh, I don't know. I don't measure it. I'm like, okay, great. Kind of, you got to at least get an idea in your mind, right? So what do you have for breakfast? And they go into all the bagels and the granola and the acai bowls and the whatever cereal and all the stuff, oatmeal. And I'm like, oh my God, where's the protein? Oh, I have a hard-boiled egg. And I'm like, that's 7 grams of protein. It is not cutting it. You need at least 35 grams, 35 grams, especially in the morning for breakfast. And for me, breakfast may be 11 o'clock. Let's be honest. I think it was 11:30 today. So I'm not saying you have to eat first thing in the morning. I do love intermittent fasting, but not getting into that again this week. So looking at 1.2 grams per kilogram, looking at, let's just say even worst case scenario, a gram for every pound of ideal body weight. So if you should weigh 150 pounds, then you should have 150 grams of protein a day. I'll be honest, I don't get to 150 every day, even though I weigh 150. I usually get between 110, 120, sometimes 130. But it's key. I always focus on the protein, making sure I'm having enough protein with each meal. That's the key. And again, lean, clean sources. But this is how you're going to support that muscle and that movement and those bones. And again, when you're older, you can see the protein is actually higher to protect against the sarcopenia. And again, to maintain that strength and mobility. And then when you look at athletes, people that are active of all age groups, at least looking at 20 to 30 grams post-workout for that repair and recovery. So clean, anti-inflammatory, hydration, all movement. This is so important. So I'm a wild caught fish only. Grass-fed, grass-finished, if it's any kind of beef. We get all of our meat from the farmer down the road. So the chicken or the turkey, the eggs, the dairy, everything comes literally from a regenerative farm just about 10 miles out from here, and they deliver it on Wednesday. So getting healthy, clean sources of food are going to help support that muscle. So exercise and hormones and inflammation. So balancing that cortisol. Movement does that. The DHEA, the growth hormone, reducing inflammation is what a huge, everyone knows today they have inflammation. Everyone knows it. There's not a person I speak to that doesn't say, oh yeah, I know I have inflammation. Movement is going to help with that. It's going to help reduce that. It's going to support that detox through sweating. You've got to sweat. Get it going, right? Whether you're in the sauna, whether you're, in a class, whether you're outdoor or just on your family room floor, whatever works for you. But optimal intensity is going to depend based on what you're doing. But know that if you're overtraining, it's going to create oxidative stress, and that's not a good situation to put your body into. So moderate intensity, and depending again on what you're doing, that's going to build resilience. So a little bit about the types of movement. As I mentioned, I'm going to go a little bit more into zone 2 cardio here for fat metabolism and heart health, but there is strength training, which I love and I highly recommend everyone do for bone density, muscle density, bone health, flexibility, mobility. Again, that's why I was in yoga last night. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm tight because I do a lot more of the zone 2 and the strength training. So I need to get some of that flexibility and mobility and everything, and it just opens it up. It just does that. And then, of course, that stretching stretching, recovery, breath work, and I do that as well too when I'm in yoga. And then of course, post meal walking. There you go. Yeah, that's how you say that. All right, so what is zone 2 cardio, just in case you don't happen to know? This is moderate intensity exercise. So you're having a conversation with someone, you're not gasping out of breath, but you're in some type of aerobic activity. Okay, so I don't monitor my heart rate. I mean, of course you could if you had on something, but that gives you kind of a little baseline there. But you're about that mid, like 10 is you're out of breath, you're dying, you're going to fall over, and then you're like a 4 to 6 if you're in zone 2. Whoops, Kathy. Yep, no writing on the screen, girlfriend. So functional benefits, we're going to see metabolic health, like I mentioned at the beginning, that mitochondria benefit with your cells, the energy source using fat for energy rather than sugar. And then looking at that insulin sensitivity, again, with that glucose uptake in the muscles, it's going to help regulate the blood sugar. Cardiovascular system improvements with the heart, the circulation, without the stress, because again, it's your body, right, in movement, in motion. And then we look at the inflammation and recovery being reduced because of the activity that's happening. And then finally, that longevity pathway. So we're not going to get too far into the AMPK and the PGC1 pathways, but when we look at mitochondrial biogenesis and longevity, these pathways are critical for that longevity. And I'm going to have to exit out of this and stop screen share, and I apologize, but I just cannot do it with the line all over it and pop up back in. Okay, so why longevity matters. So again, metabolic flexibility, you're going to be able to switch between fat for fuel instead of glucose for fuel. Have you ever felt like you just put on weight? Well, you are, because you're using your glucose or your sugar for your fuel, and your body is just storing anything in there excess, which you're getting probably maybe too much of. And so we want to burn that fat, and mobility with the metabolic function on the correct side of the spectrum is going to help you do that with the exercise. So energy endurance, you'll have a lot more energy throughout your day. You'll sleep a whole lot better if you're moving. And of course, we know that with your heart health, it's going to lower that resting heart rate and keep you balanced and keep your mind sharp, mental clarity, right? Because of the oxygen to the brain. So let's talk a little bit about your daily routine and this, what it could possibly look like. Of course, I'm not your doctor, I'm not your therapist or your trainer, so consult with them if you have specific questions for yourself. But when you look at this zone 2 movement, shoot for 5 times a week, 5 days out of the week, at least 30 minutes in that, again, midway. You can have a conversation with someone if you're going for a walk, or you can have a conversation if you're on the bike next to them, but you're still exerting yourself. So shoot for 5 days a week. Combine that with some resistance training twice per week. I like to do 3, sometimes 4 times a week on resistance training, but at least twice. And then again, for that mitochondrial repair and recovery, make sure that you have enough protein intake and hydration. And we're going to dive into our patches. Many of you use the X39, X49, and AEON as a complement to support your energy balance and stress management and wellness. So we're going to talk a little bit about that here in just a minute. But make sure that you're also focusing again on that mind-body movement. When we look at the foundation, our nervous system has to be regulated. If we are stuck in that fight or flight mode, go, 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 nonstop, then we're not connecting the mind and the body. And so we see that serious out of balance state. And so we know that AEON, of course, helps to regulate that nervous system, but there's a lot of other things that can help you as well too. Grounding, get outside, put your bare feet on the grass, stand out there, enjoy the nature, just being in a grateful state. But looking at how to be able to bring that nervous system into balance in a way that is calming, relaxing, breathing. That's why I like Qigong or Tai Chi or yoga, something like this, that is just about the breath, the mind, the body connection, and staying present in that. So you do what works best for you, of course. So with LifeWave patches, I actually have a video. It's about, I think, 15 minutes long, and I will put it in the notes section of this when I upload this video, it will be in like the description. It will be, it's a description of in depth of X39, X49, AEON. It was when AEON was on a promo, so just so you know, the video is old. It was from a few months ago, earlier this summer, but it gives a really thorough in-depth, and just for time purposes, we're not going to go that in-depth on 39, 49, because again, this is longevity hacks, so we are incorporating the patches into the reasons why we want to live this long, healthy life and these key core practices that everyone should be focused on. So 39, as we know, elevates GHKCU, copper peptide. And so that is a powerful peptide that we have in our body that declines as we age. By the time we're in our 60s, there's only about 20% of that active, and that is your superhero peptide. And it is very high when you are young. That's why you are like a superhero when you're young, you're active, you're mobile, you're doing things, your body looks and feels the best, right? And then as we age, it declines, and so we decline. And so when we elevate GHK, we can go to PubMed, because we don't have time for this, but you can go to PubMed and you can type in GHKCU, and you'll find 13 pages of research and benefits of elevating GHK. Now, of course, we don't inject it. We actually elevate it with our patch, right? A simple patch applied to the body is going to have a wavelength of light that enters our body from the patch, right? Our body's heat is what activates it, and that reflects a specific wavelength of light into our body that elevates GHK. And that in turn starts this incredible process of helping the body to repair and regenerate on a daily basis. We see changes sometimes soon, right, with people. Sometimes people feel things early on, but as little as 3 to 6 weeks in our clinical studies, we can see changes from using the X39 in things such as improved cardiovascular function, improved neurological function, less pain, less inflammation, better quality of sleep, faster wound healing. Things like this are happening very early on when you apply the X39. You put this on in the morning, you leave it on for 12 hours, and you take it off and you throw it away. And you do the same thing the next day. And you do that based on your age, at least 1 month for every decade you are old. Now, when you look at our other patches, you can use these at the same exact time. For example, adding the X49. You would use that the same time you would use the X39. They come with instruction booklets so you can see the suggested locations. But those two work together. They complement each other. It's like they X49 elevates AHK, which is daughter peptide, to GHK. And so they have fantastic benefits when it comes to strength and stamina, oxygenation, circulation, mobility, just endurance. It's just incredible, the recovery time. And so when you see that video that's going to be attached into the description here, I had screen share and I've got charts and different things I've shared. So just a fantastic combination if you're looking for improving your movement and your recovery. So these go hand in hand with that. And we all know, as I mentioned, that mind-body connection. AEON is going to help reduce the inflammation in your body, of course, but we know that it's going to help you manage stress. And when we look at keeping the nervous system into that parasympathetic state, being in some type of activity that helps with the mind-body connection, with the breath work and the movement, that and using that AEON is going to really help to keep your nervous system in balance. Because if your nervous system's not in balance, the body can't heal itself. And we know if there's inflammation off the charts, that's not happening either. So a key component to use these patches together. And of course, you can use them all three during the day. Or as we've mentioned before with our sleep Zoom, you can use the AEON at night if you choose to really help you manage your stress in the evening. Carnosine is kind of like X49. David thought initially when he invented X49, which came out 3 years ago, that he wasn't going to need carnosine anymore in the line. And then he very quickly realized that, yeah, I do need carnosine. These are different peptides. X49 elevates AHK, which is a tripeptide. Carnosine is a dipeptide, and so meaning two. And so two amino acids that form together in these chains. And so when you look at what carnosine does, it's similar in X49 in that it helps with lean muscle mass recovery and exercise and physical fitness, but it has a lot of other benefits. And when we talk about that insulin sensitivity component. We know, as I mentioned last week, that carnosine is balancing that glycation process, so helping you with those blood sugar spikes. You got to do your part and eat right, but we know that carnosine is not only beneficial for the muscles, but also for organs and brain and your heart. And then finally, IceWave. If you do hurt yourself, or if you are in some type of pain and you can't exercise, or don't have the, maybe flexibility or mobility because your body is restricted, IceWave can help you with pain. Now, I'm not saying if you have an injury that you need to use IceWave and go overexert and hurt yourself. Don't get me wrong. But IceWave is a patch that's a 2-patch system that can be used on location if there's pain, and that pain will be eliminated because it opens up the energy channels, the energy flow in the body. Pain is stuck energy. So you can use it as needed after exercise. I honestly need it on my hamstrings today. After last night's class, I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, because it was so much stretching in my hamstrings with all those pyramid poses. My hamstrings are sore. So I definitely could have done that, but I haven't today because every time I do, I'm going back and forth between a Zoom. But it's all good. It definitely can help. So let's finish up here by looking at this from a functional medicine perspective. So looking at the longevity component of this with the exercise we've talked about so far tonight, nutrition last week, sleep the first week. So this is the triad of longevity thus far that we've discussed. Incorporating light therapy. We've been talking about our different patches every single week that help with these different topics in our triad. And so we know that this is going to amplify our movement, our balance, our cellular energy by using our light technology. And then finally, that signaling pathway. So movement is a signaling pathway. It tells your body to repair, adapt, and stay young. If you're not moving, you're not repairing, you're not adapting, and you're not staying young. It's pretty simple. So to end, let's move with purpose. It's not just for fitness. It's literally for metabolic flexibility, mental clarity, and for cellular youth. So find whatever it is for you. Find whatever type of movement that works for you. It could be a video in your family room that you're watching on YouTube. It could be a class that you attend. It could be just going for a walk in nature or a swim. I don't know what's going to help you to get excited about movement, but I will be honest with you. When you look at all the longevity hacks, these are the top 3 for a reason, because they literally are 100% indicators of how long you will live. You can eat as good as you want, but if you do not move, if you don't have some type of exercise, some type of resistance training, some type of that mind, body, breath connection, it's not going to happen. You're not going to live that long. You can't, and the same thing on the other end of that, right? You can't cheat the sleep and go, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I used to say that. I'll sleep when I'm dead. And then you don't exercise and you don't eat right. You got to look at all of these components. They're really a holistic approach to living a long, healthy life, and not just a lifespan, but a health span. And I promise you this, it's not too late. It's not, no matter how old you are. I know you guys have probably seen the video of the lady that started working out. She's actually on one of my websites, I think. She started working out. She was 70 years old, sedentary, just debilitating almost with the way she looked, right? You knew this lady didn't eat right. You knew she didn't exercise. And her daughter said, you're getting in shape. We are doing this together. I'm training you and we are going to make this happen. And sure enough, time goes by and this lady is doing like pull-ups. I mean, she's like in the gym, strong, healthy. It didn't happen overnight, but it happened over time. But what's the difference in her lifespan and her health span now versus what path was she down before that? So get moving, pick something, put it on your calendar, pencil it in. You do have time to do this, even if it's a quick 20-minute walk after you eat breakfast, after you eat lunch, after you eat dinner. Do that a couple times a day. I promise you, incorporate your patches. It's going to make a huge difference. So thank you for being here this evening. Please get back with the person that invited you tonight. They're going to talk to you more about your health goals, what patches best suit your needs, how to get started, how to use that wholesale buying option to be able to get the pack for yourself and for your family. And I look forward to seeing you all again in a couple weeks when we come back from our global conference that is in Anaheim, California next week. So if you're there, please come up and see me. Give me a hug. Let's get a picture. I'm excited to see all of you in Anaheim, and I'll see you for longevity hack number 4, the 28th of October. Thank you all and have a fantastic evening.